Today I'm going to teach you step by step how to make this flocked bunny wreath door swag. Welcome to Stillwater's Wreath Designs. Come on in. Before we get started on today's design, let me just take a quick minute to welcome anyone new here to the Stillwater's channel. Stillwater's Wreath Designs is all about step-by-step wreath making and door swag tutorials. We've got new tutorials uploading every single week, so if you like that sort of thing, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button and join us each week. And for my friends who have been here on the channel for a while, thank you for coming back. I so appreciate you. You'll find a full materials and supplies list for you below in the description of this video, so you can recreate this beauty if you'd like to do so. Of course, if you would rather just purchase today's design, I will leave a link to my Etsy shop as well. Okay, let's dive in. So today we're going to make our door swag on a 26-inch pine swag base. And if you're not familiar with pine swag bases, they basically look like an upside down Christmas tree. They've got a nice little hanger at the top for you or your customer to hang it on your door. And I've already fluffed it out, but you can see it's flat on the back. And the first thing we need to do for today's design is stuff our swag base with our deco mesh cruffles. So we're going to scoot that guy out of the way, and we'll be using this 10-inch deco mesh that's just a pretty lime green, pink, and white with metallic striping. And there's really no hard and fast number on how many pieces we'll need for our swag, guys. It just depends on how closely you stuff your deco mesh pieces together. I usually start out with 14 pieces of deco mesh, and then we can add in as we need to. So we're going to cut out 14 pieces of this pretty deco mesh at 24 inches in length. So if you're new to wreath making, I'll be cutting my mesh with a rotary cutter. This is basically like a mini pizza cutter, and it lets you cut your deco mesh with nice, clean, quick lines. And then what you see in the background here, guys, this is called a self-healing mat. So it serves a couple of purposes. It lets you cut directly on it without dulling your blades or harming your work area. And it's also got measurements so that you can measure as you go. I'll leave a link for both of these tools below. If you don't have a rotary cutter and self-healing mat, feel free to just use your ruler and a good pair of scissors. And again, we're going to start out with 14 pieces cut at 24 inches in length, and then I'll meet you back here. Once you've got your deco mesh pieces cut, go ahead and grab your pine swag base and bring it back to your work area. I would also recommend a chip clip or a clothespin for this next step. And we're going to make cruffles to add into our pine base. If you're new to working with deco mesh loves to fray. So anything that we can do as a creator to help reduce that fray is always ideal. And the cruffle method is a great way to do that. So what we're going to do is grab a single piece of deco mesh, and we're going to lay it in our work area, curl side up. I like to grab something a little heavy and lay in the middle of my mesh here just to keep it from rolling in on itself. And what we're going to do at one end is curl that end in 2 or 3 times. And what that does is tuck away the raw edge of our deco mesh to help reduce that fray. Once you get that curled in a couple, 2 or 3 times, go ahead and secure that with your clip, and then just spin your deco mesh piece around. And we're going to do the same thing at the other end. Give that 2 or 3 rolls or curls. Once you've done that, now we're going to use our 2 thumbs to press down on that deco mesh, and then use our other 8 fingers, or in my case 7, I'm nursing an injury, to walk that mesh back into our hands all the way to the end. Then you can release that clip and just pinch this cruffle right in the middle. And basically what a cruffle is, friends, is curls on the end and a ruffle in the middle, hence the cruffle. Once you've got that cruffle pinched between your fingers, go ahead and come to your swag. We're going to start at the top of our pine swag base, which the top is the widest part, and we're going to find 2 neighboring pine ties. These are called pine ties. At the top of our base, take that cruffle, Press that all the way down to the center of those two neighboring pine ties, and then give those pine ties a couple of tight twists to secure that cruffle in, just like that. We're going to add cruffles all the way down our swag base, and then we'll come all the way back up so that our base is nice and full. Let's do one more together and then we'll speed ahead. So we're going to grab a piece of deco mesh, lay that curl side up in our work area. We'll place something heavy on that piece of mesh to keep it from curling up. We're going to roll the end 2 or 3 times to tuck away that raw edge and secure it with our clip. We'll then spin that guy around and we'll roll the other end 2 or 3 times as well. And then we're just going to hold that mesh in place with our thumbs and use our remaining fingers to crawl that mesh back into our hand to create that cruffle. Then we can release that clip, pinch that guy in the middle, come back to your swag base, and come immediately below the cruffle we just added in. Find 2 neighboring pine ties, place that cruffle all the way down to the base of those ties. Give those pine ties a couple of tight twists, and we've just added our second cruffle. Go ahead and add your cruffles throughout your entire pine base, coming down one side and then going back up the other. If you need additional pieces, feel free to continue to cut them and make this as full as you wish, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, I've got my pine base full of our deco mesh cruffles, and I did end up using the 14 pieces, and look how much dimension it gives our base. So stinking cute. Go ahead and plug in your hot glue gun. So while our glue gun heats up, we're going to make 2 ribbon tail bundles, and we're going to use 5 different colors of Easter springy ribbon. I've got 2 2.5 inch ribbons and 3 1.5 inch ribbons. Just grab 5 different ribbon types that match your design and are wired. Okay guys, we're going to make 2 ribbon tail clusters, and we're going to use 1 piece of ribbon of each of the ribbon types for each cluster. So when we cut our ribbon, we'll need 2 pieces of each, cut at 12 inches in length. Once you get those ribbon strips cut, now we need to trim our ends. You can either angle trim the end, meaning your scissors come down about 1 inch and then cut up diagonally to the corner, or you can dovetail. I'm going to dovetail my ribbon, and so 1 strip at a time to dovetail. We're going to fold our ribbon strip in half, and then we're going to fold that half in half again in the opposite direction. Then grab your scissors, come down about 3/4 of an inch and cut up diagonally to the corner. And then when you open that ribbon tail, you can see you've got that nice pretty V, which is called a dovetail. And by folding it in half, we've done both ends at once. So go ahead and trim the ends of your ribbon strips, and I'll meet you back here. All right, once you've got those tails trimmed, go ahead and grab a single pipe cleaner that matches in some way to your ribbon strips. Fold that guy in half to give yourself 2. And to make our ribbon tail clusters, friends, I always start with my 2.5 inch ribbon on the bottom. We'll reserve that for our second one. And we're just gonna layer these guys into an X. We've got 5 different ribbons, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Once you've got that ribbon X made, take your fingers and just kind of scrunch those guys together. It can be a little tricky if your ribbon is stiff, that's okay. Now you're going to take one of your pipe cleaner halves and just fold that guy into a V. And we're basically just going to wrap that right around the center. Then spin that over to the back side. Then we're going to give this pipe cleaner 3 or 4 super duper as tight as we can get it twist. Tight, tight, tight. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and trim off that excess bit of pipe cleaner. And we've just made the base for our ribbon tail cluster. And all I do at this point, guys, is just kind of separate them out. That's it, nothing to it. So it goes from being an X to kind of a sloppy ribbon tail assortment. And then once we get that into our base, we're going to fluff those tails out by just running our fingers over those tails one at a time. I just hang on to the center, put that ribbon tail between my fingers, pull it straight up to the ceiling, and curve. And we do that for every single tail, which just really gives that ribbon tail cluster all kinds of height and whimsy. This is also a great option for those of you that struggle with making bows. I know that was probably the hardest thing for me to learn when I started wreath making. So it's going to look something like this. And then once we get this into our swag, we'll fluff it out a little bit more. But this is basically how we make a ribbon tail cluster. Okay, let's move on to the next. Okay, so now we've made our ribbon tail clusters. We can bring our swag back into our work area. It's time to add our bunny. So what I'm going to do, guys, is just kind of part the C's here on my swag. For any of those pine ties that are pointing straight up, I want them to lay off to the side a bit here in the center, just like that. And I'm going to push that deco mesh a little bit too, just to kind of create a spot for our bunny to lay. So this is what our bunny looks like, guys. I've already made a cute little bow that I've attached and hot glued around his neck, and he's going to nestle right here in our swag. So these guys are actually super lightweight. I'm just going to drench this guy with hot glue and press him in. Basically here on his torso, I'm going to say probably 10 or so full squirts. And this is Gorilla Glue. It's my preferred hot glue. And then we're going to nestle him right there in our swag and press down on him for about 30 seconds. All right, I'm going to lay my cutters on him just to give him a little bit of weight, because the next step will be to add in our 2 ribbon tail clusters. I'm going to add one below our bunny and one above. So for the one above, I'm going to just turn this guy to an angle here. We're going to actually use, again, 2 pine ties to secure this guy in, but they go pretty deep, and we don't want our ribbon tail cluster to recede all the way to the center spine of our swag, because it'll get lost in the shuffle. So we're going to make a false bottom here with a couple of neighboring pine ties. So all I'm doing is making an X and then giving that a couple of twists, which is giving that new false bottom. I'm going to lay this ribbon tail cluster right in the center of that false bottom and give those guys a twist. And then I'm going to take that little bit of a nub there and just kind of tuck it back in. I'm going to take a second here and just run my fingers back over those tails to fluff them out. They got a little beaten up in the midst of our adding here. All right, and now we're going to add our second ribbon tail cluster below our bunny. Once you have that anchored down in, refluff those ribbon tails. How stinking cute is this guy coming along to be? Okay, so next up we're going to add some florals. I have actually grabbed 2 of these Easter floral picks. They're just like pip berries, if that's capturing that for you. So we've got some pink, purple, and yellow on this pretty pale lime green base. And we're going to add these pieces directly into our swag. And so let's just look at one at a time here. If you kind of pull on these guys, there's several different stems here on this bush, and you can break them down into as many pieces as you want. So you could simply cut off each of these 4 major stems. You could cut them off individually, whatever you want to do. These actually came from Hobby Lobby. If you are new to my channel, you'll soon learn that Hobby Lobby is probably my most preferred supplier for florals. I'm not sponsored by them. They just really have the best quality in my experience. And you'll also soon learn that florals can be the most expensive part of anything that you create. So just a little pro tip for you, Hobby Lobby has all of their florals on sale for 40% off every other week. So make sure when you're getting ready to do your designs that you're paying attention to those sales so you can get the most bang for your buck. All right, so what I'm going to do, I want my pieces to be essentially this size. So I'm going to go through both of my bushes and trim them down. I'm guessing I'll get 5 to 6 bunches approximately of that size. I'm just going to cut them here at the base until I've got them all cut, and then I'll meet you back here. Now that we've got all of our cute little picks separated out and trimmed down, it's time to add them into our swag. My preference is to dry place them first, so I literally just take my picks, add them all the way around the swag with no glue first, and just make sure I'm happy with that placement, and then I come back in with my glue. So I'm going to kind of frame both of my ribbon tail clusters first, and then I'll come back in with the extra pieces. You can certainly add them in how you wish. So take a few minutes, get those added into your swag, and then I'll meet you back here. All right, guys, we've got our base of florals added in, and so now I have a handful, probably 10 or so, of single individual picks that came from those bushes. So now I'm going to sprinkle those throughout the rest of my swag. I'm not going to dry place those since we've got our base in. So again, just find the spots for all of your pretties, add a bead of hot glue, and anchor them in. How stinking cute is that? Now let's tie this beauty all together. I've grabbed a leftover stem of variegated pink and blush florals. It's got some nice greenery as well. And we're going to add that into our swag. So if you're not familiar with greenery, it's typically on a wire spine, so you can bend and twist that as you wish. We're going to shove those greenery bits up and then come down about 2 inches or so below that last bit of greenery and trim it off. Just like we did before, friends, I'm going to dry place these in. I want to sprinkle them out a little bit, and I'd like for this hot pink to be right underneath our bunny. Now, because this is on a wire stem, you can bend them as you need to so that they'll sit just the way you want down into your swag. So let's go ahead and dry place our florals in, and then we'll hot glue them down. And that is it, friends. Oh my goodness, how stinking cute did this swag turn out to be. I sure hope you enjoyed creating with me today. If you did, be sure to give this tutorial a thumbs up. It really helps my little channel to grow. Thanks for spending time with me today, friends. Happy crafting.